I had made a video a little while back for Ryan Boundless, kind of a response to questions that he had. And I misunderstood a little bit about what he was trying to have me present for him. I had taken it that he was specifically had wanted me to talk about uh, what was going on in my mind and what was happening for me when I went to go and start living in the van and traveling and whatnot. And then from the ideas and what was going on in my mind, how, what actually went on, what wasn't the same. And from comments that he'd left on that video, really, I guess what he really wanted was, obviously there's a certain, for most people, I think there's a certain, and I think he feels that way as well, there's a certain amount of how do I put this, you build things up, a fantasy, so to speak, in your mind of what something would be like. You know, you're not looking necessarily at the fact that everything seems to be a give and take, and it kind of builds nostalgia around doing the van thing and just going. And you know, there are negative things, and so this video is going to be primarily about exposing some of those negative things about living in a van. And I think RV, I'm gonna try to do a little bit about that. Obviously, I don't have nearly the experience to really discuss that, but there's going to be some things that are the same, and I'll talk about that. And first of all, one of the worst things about living in a van, and I think probably even living in an RV, is going to be the possibilities of breakdown. Now you would say, well, any vehicle you're going to be able to have a breakdown, but the trouble with having a breakdown, a serious breakdown, in a van or in an RV is it's also your home. So if you're broken down, you're going to have to deal with the discussion with the mechanic or what have you, that it's not just your vehicle, it's your home, and trying to have them let you still stay in it while they're waiting on finishing the repairs of it. Now, I haven't seen a lot of trouble with people being told no to that, but if you were, that could be a pretty negative deal. And at best, it would end up leading to costs of you having to get a hotel room or a motel room or something, and cut into your funds. And at worst, you really could be stuck out. So there is some added stress to that. That's definitely a negative thing. I would say the second most negative thing is just accidents, guys. There is that concern that you're going to have with accidents. Like, what if you wreck it and it's been your home as well? So now not only are you without a vehicle, you're also homeless, so to speak, because probably not going to be just able to live in your wrecked van or your wrecked RV. And that can add to costs and all kinds of things. Sure, there's insurance for that, and that's the positive note, is, you know, you can be getting a new place pretty quick, but the realities of the matter is, in between, it could be pretty significantly kind of scary. I would say the next negative thing is just the negative nostalgia that goes with living in a van. And there is some to full-time RVing still. It's starting to tip where people are being a little more accepting of it, and a little bit they're starting to almost think it's kind of cool. But as far as living full-time in an RV, but in a van, you get kind of tied in and connected to the people that are drug addicts and serious alcoholics, and things of that nature that are in a van because they have to, because of their substance abuse issues and all the problems that go along with that. Where most of us, or at least most of us that are doing the YouTube thing, and I think most of the people that are really contemplating doing this in the van, I've met very few that really have a substance abuse problem. You know, I've met a couple of people that are borderline alcoholic, but I wouldn't say that it's caused them to have dysfunction in their lives, you know. But because there's a number of people that do have those issues, it absolutely is kind of a negative nostalgia that follows you around. So that's a bad thing. The next thing I would say that's a negative thing about living in your van is the fact that for most people, you can correct this, but for most people, you're not going to have running water, and that can be a real trouble. I know it is for me because I have hard contact lenses that I have to put in, and so I need running water to properly wash my hands so I don't end up with bacteria in my eye that can damage my eyes or make me even go blind. So that's a problem. It's something that is correctable. You can use a 12-volt pump and tanks and stuff like that, but of course there's always cost to that, right? The next thing is in a van with using the facilities, so, or restroom or what have you, you can get a porta potty and those work all right, but cleaning them is nasty. I suppose obviously, like, if you can have holding tanks in an RV, you can do it in a van, but it's going to be a substantial expense, and I don't think most people have that, do that. The other options, if you're not going to have a porta potty that you'd have to clean, that's nasty, it's using, a lot of people use like a bucket and bags and stuff and then toss it, and it's just kind of weird dealing with tossing it. Another thing is you're going to have moments in the middle of the night where you're not going to really want to or be able to just run in and go use the restroom real quick, even when you're needing to urinate. So most people end up peeing in a bottle, and so that's definitely not glamorous, and it's for sure a negative side of living in a van. Most of the things that I would say that have been negative about living in a van is all about really comfort. Something that doesn't come up a whole lot, but it is a negative aspect of living in a van, is the issue that you come up against with some cities. It's actually is illegal to sleep in your car. You're not going to, I've never heard of it being to the point where it's an arrestable offense or anything, but you could get ticketed in certain cities, and it's not always easy to know which city is enforcing such a law and what city just has it on the books. So there is that, but not all cities actually have any kind of law against it, so it's not a huge deal. Some days you just don't want to deal with the added stress of having to find where you're going to sleep that night. And for the most part, it's not a real big deal, but it is kind of negative needing to go find the place that you're going to stay that night. You know, it's not always something that you want to deal with, and you have to. So, and that's going to be the same thing if you're trying to do it boondocking with an RV, except for I think your issues are going to be magnified doing it at an RV, because if you're not staying in an RV park, you just stick out, period. And it makes that makes it a lot harder finding a place to be able to stay in boondock for the night. So that's just my 2 cents on it. I hadn't really had anything that was really rotten about it. If you're a heavy homebody, though, I do think that the small space could start bothering you over time living in a van. It's a small space. I don't ever really spend a lot of time, didn't ever really spend a lot of time inside the van unless I was sleeping. I might watch a movie, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But the small space can drain on you. I would say even in an RV, a lot of people in the smaller RVs, and even maybe some people that like to have a lot of room, might find that an issue over time. The fact that you're doing it in a smaller space, you're just living in a smaller space. So there's that. One thing that has bothered me a bit about living in the van, on certain nights I have been in kind of a windstorm or whatnot, and sure, like if you're in a house you can kind of hear a windstorm if it's heavy, but in the van it can rock it, and that's made it really tough for me to sleep. So that's probably the biggest one for me, is just on occasion it's difficult to sleep just because the weather impacts you so much comparatively to living in a house.